is about liberating the mind.
Yeah.
And so we, so the past few days, with the passing on the legacy of the Dharma and taking and embracing it to spread that legacy to your children, or meaning to the next generation. And Master went on to teach us about purification, cultivating the virtues, and to unearth the true suchness or the intrinsic nature in us. So, and here today is in suffering be purified. We will come to that in the initial verse, and then to liberate our minds. And what is it that we need to liberate from? So here, compassion is the root of giving and transforming others. And we do so because we are compassionate, and even we can't bear to see others suffering, and this is in the 5 realms. So this is not liberating or helping sentient beings only within this human realm, but also all the other realms, hell realm, hungry ghosts, and so on. And then we do so with loving kindness, compassion, because with loving kindness, compassion, we do that without regrets. And when with great joy and equanimity, we do so without any expectation. So with loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and we do so with the 4 infinite minds in walking the path. So in compassion, compassion just cannot simply just arise like that. I want to be compassionate, and here I am, I'll be compassionate. And so the first step actually being compassionate, it's start by giving. And you see, when someone give, and then it opens the heart, because someone can be giving and not yet compassionate. So from giving, when you become helpful, then you become caring and serving others, and so on until you grow the great loving heart. But even with a great loving heart, and that is the beginning stage on developing compassion. So in this explanation here, and to do that, we can get engaged in the spiritual practice, and this spiritual practice of learning to give. See, when we give, we must also understand what is it when we are giving. Are we just giving what we have? We are giving what we can afford. But giving also means you are giving away your attachments. And so therefore, we also need to understand what is it that you're attached to? What are you clinging on to when you practice compassion? Bodhisattvas cannot bear for sentient beings to suffer. And so therefore, when you try to emulate, when we are, you see, Master call you Bodhisattvas. And so you are actually a Bodhisattva in practice. And so in doing so, we need to emulate is cannot bear for sentient beings to suffer. So with loving kindness, compassion, they tirelessly come and go for the sake of beings of the 5 realms. They have no regrets at all. And so if you have loving kindness, compassion, and you tirelessly come for the sake of sentient beings to save sentient beings, is very much go back to the parable of this chapter 3, is that it's a father and a son, right? A parent and a child. So we'll give, so the parent will give the child, loving child, the only child, with loving kindness and compassion, and do so without regrets. No matter how bad the child may be, there will always be loving kindness. And this is what we should be developing when we go on in the practice. And then this joy and equanimity, when you do that, you do so without expectation. So imagine one who give without expectation and happy to give, and this is what it is. And one is not moved by what the end result of that giving or the compassion is, and that's equanimity. So we do so without regard for themselves, And that is one benevolence of the mind and the nobility of the mind that we will develop as you cultivate compassion. So the doorway to the mind of benevolence of the mind is always from the heart. And that doorway is the compassion of the heart. Then it opens up to the nobility of the mind. So do not crave benefits for themselves. So there's no self-cherishing interest. There's no self-cherishing thoughts arising from that, and always putting the interest of others ahead of ours. So isn't that the case between a parent and a child? That's the case. So this is what we should practice with anybody else. And see sentient beings help and transform, and that's what how bodhisattvas are. So in this mind in practice, that if our minds are pure and free from dust, obviously, then you can reflect the universe. And here it doesn't matter what the outlook is being. Doesn't matter what what you call the material objects or how one is adorned with different colors. So the practice in our mind is where we must sweep away all reflection, so there's no dust in our minds. So if you recall that I've been mentioning to you all that there are two things on the heart and the mind, right? The heart is actually encrusted with a lot of desires, and all these desires are the attachment, and this everything. What is it I want? What's me, my mind, and so on. So when you do that, the mind will obviously be very desirous, and especially so we are in the desirous realm. And then our mind is being obscured by all these emotions, and more so by the ego. And this ego has an identity and will not allow you to admit your shortcomings. So we got to be very, very be aware and mindful of what we do and who we are. So these colorful images of what things will be in our minds. And also Master gave the metaphor of about the two temples, one being colorful, the other one being very simple, but we're filled with practitioners. So the mind encompasses the universe, then embraces the boundless worlds within it. So within, and that's what is more important. It's not about what one sees, it's what is inside our mind in our practice. And that's the reason why that when one is in practice and you want to cultivate the nobility in your mind, one need to be humble, be gentle, and be simple. And then where you have these three virtues, you'll become a charitable, hospitable, and be noble in your thoughts. So the place of practice in the mind does not need to be colorful or to be magnificent. In fact, the simpler the better, because that is what you are trying to practice. It's the true essence of oneself. So when you travel on a spiritual path, you don't want to be carrying a lot of all this, adorn yourself with all the colorful ornaments. You want to travel light, and this is what we should be doing. So this is one of the most magnificent is the pure mind. So in the Bodhisattva practice, the compassion is found for giving teachings to sentient beings, just as much as we inherit the legacy from the Father, which in this metaphor refers to the Buddha, for the Buddha Dharma. So therefore, we also be sharing those teachings with others. But to do this, one must develop the higher consciousness, one must develop the spiritual consciousness, because it's only then one be able to discern the realization of the what the truth of the teachings are. And Dharma is not an academic study, and one must know that. And realization transcends the intellect of the mind. Patience is needed to be repeatedly come back, and one have to have compassion. You need to have patience. Why? Because in a Bodhisattva, have taken the first vow, right? The first vow being to liberate all sentient beings, and liberate all sentient beings. Until, for example, and like Sister Lydie said this morning about the Siddhikapa Bodhisattva, and until the hell is empty, and that's what his vow is. So, in Kuan Yin Bodhisattva is to only take on supreme enlightenment only when all the 6 realms are empty. So this one, therefore, to fulfill that vow, you got to repeatedly come back. So in my very much the same way, you have recited the 4 Bodhisattva vows, and that's what you should be emulating towards. So if you cross the shore of samsara, the shore enlightenment, you have to cross back, to come back, to liberate sentient beings. So great loving kindness, compassion, that's how we're going to walk this Bodhisattva path. And we do so with great joy and equanimity, so that we do so without regrets and without any expectations. And therefore, we will limit all the afflictions that we have and we for infinite minds. So this sutra verse and the Master's explanation in here, it says that the fire has seen a lot of more sides. Now we, when Masters was started in the earlier chapters, spoke about us being in the burning house. But even after coming out, then Master went on to explain, even the burning house can refer to our mind. So even that because we are not enlightened, we are still burning from all sides in our mind. And this burning part of it is like the 5 desires are like honey on a night blade. Wealth and advantage are like floating clouds. Now, all this thing refers to our minds now. The 5 desires are like honey on a night blade. And as you can imagine, the night blade is very sharp. So imagine that really oblivious children, which means our children, meaning ourselves, will use our tongue to lick the honey. So whether you lick the honey or you grab the honey, you're going to cut yourself. So thus worldly fame and fortune and 5 desire as like honey on a night blade when we lick or we grab the honey. And then wealth and advantage are like floating clouds in the sky. And clouds are in essence, in reality, just vapor against the blue sky. They look wonderful, but looks very attractive, but actually they're very far away and do not even exist. So because of this, destroy our minds of sentient beings. So this is called the darkness of ignorance. Now this also refers back to an early teaching Master mentioned about the illusoriness, if you remember, in the worldly ways that we live in. So therefore we need to understand that, because at the end of the day, at the end of our life, all these things are meaningless. So, and then another verse is here. In the darkness of ignorance, sentient beings pursue their desires as if there is no day and no night. The flames of the 5 turbidities and its sufferings burn them day and night, thus face various kinds of suffering. So the state of mind is in the darkness of ignorance. These are things that we greedily pursue, but ultimately empty. So if we pursue something which had a mean empty, so therefore, if we live this life then, pursuing all these goals, which at the end of the day is empty and illusory, we are actually wasted this life in this pursuit. But having said that, we still live the worldly life. But therefore, and my Master explained about his illusoriness that in our life. Yes, we need food to eat, but we do not indulge to the extent that we do so because of our own desire, because of our own sensory consciousness. And that's the reason why, unless one grows in a consciousness of awareness within ourselves and mindful of what's going in our conduct when we interact with others, we knowing the Dharma is purely academic. So we need to apply that knowingly of how what's inside and what's outside. So we face suffering as a result of flames of five turbidities and its sufferings. And all these things is all our interaction of our own desire, our own 5 sensory windows, together with the skandhas that we see. So the desire of material things, recognition, well stated, and so on, these are all worldly winds, right? The 8 worldly winds fame and shame, praise and blame, happiness and sadness, gain and loss, and all this will blow onto us, especially for us as a householder. In practice, we face them all the time. So all these day and night we do so. I mean, even if I'm sure that even in some of the dreams, when we have certain ambition, there's certain desire that we have, even we dream even about it. So imagine day and night we continue to have those desires within us. So these are various kinds of suffering I must have mentioned. So here are the lessons for today. So even if we are born in heaven, we create a good karma with expectation. So therefore, we also need to understand that a lot of people will marry lots of marriage. So why is it that some people today that you can see there's so huge marriage, and yet they are not generous at all? So, but when we exalt all these blessings, we'll fall back into the evil realm, and that's what samsara realm is. And you all understand all these things. So when we experience something of external conditions and try to grasp it as appearance, will be imprinted in our minds. And as I just mentioned earlier, and this is the afflictions we have, that our sensory consciousness and we interact with our skandhas, and that's why we get entangled, and therefore we get on and on and on about stuck in this cyclic existence. So when we decide something we cannot get it, we experience, then we certainly experience suffering. So this is one of the 8 sufferings that Master mentioned with the 5 pities and 8 suffering, right? So of the 8 sufferings, 4 of them I think you all know very well, which are the 4 states of existence, birth, old age, sickness, and death. So to decide something we cannot get it, and parting with those we love, that's another one. Or suffering of meeting those we hate, and that's the third one. So there are 3 here. And the 4th one here, and the last one of the 8 is the 5 desires, which is our interaction and entanglement with the skandhas, and mystically thinking that pleasures of the 5 desires will allow them to attain the joy that they seek, and they're not realizing that at the end of the day, all this joy actually is meaningless. So this again refers back to the practice of the 4-4 mindfulness. If you remember the second of the 4-4 mindfulness, the feelings are suffering. And so we've got to be very mindful of this. So your minds are pure, undefiled, they will be free of suffering. And that is that simple. And I love this last line the Master said, it's that simple. But in our life, we make it so complicated. So in contemplation, the higher ground of practice is muddy and slippery. And that is so, and this is what Master is trying to say. Even though you know the Dharma, you're outside the burning house, you still have your mind, right? And you go into higher ground of practice, you're still muddy and slippery. The ground is soft and discomforting to the body and slippery for the mind. Because uplift from discomfort by abandoning the attachment of the body and liberate the mind from slippery thoughts. So the why is so muddy? And because we are still wallowing in the mud of samsara. And why is it so slippery? Because our thoughts are fleeting. So in relationship, I only got 6 words today on relationship. Okay, it's so very simple. Love, you must sow. But wise, you must be sow. Okay, Gan En brothers and sisters, that's all I have today. Thank you.
Awesome. Another awesome sharing from our brother Chin. Okay, I think, yes, we need to take our photo as usual, open our video. At the same time, we allow Sister Siu Ching to give us her insight and a tingling.
Today is happy holiday in Perak. Today is
Perak holiday.
Oh,
happy holiday, Perak. Good morning, Brother Robert. Good morning, brothers and sisters.
Morning.
Very fast of Brother Chin. Then later we say what love we must be so.
So
wise.
Wise must be so.
Love, you must sow.
Love, you
Wise,
must sow.
you must sow. Wise, you must be so.
You must be. You and King.
Okay.
Okay. Very Okay, Gan En, brother Chin, and Gan En to all the brothers and sisters. Very wonderful sharing today. I'm also looking forward to Sister Kaping sharing. Indeed, Sister Kaping is very sharp. You see, even though she's the first one to share, she nearly so solid. Yeah, it seems that it's very pure and clear. You see, like what Rajin said, it's as simple as that. The mind, simple and pure, you get everything undefiled. 就是这样. We talk about all these analogy, what honey in the plate lah. Of course, the special one from Sister Kaping, what called catching a falling piano or like that lah. The day and night lah. We are clinging to all this, chasing after this. So 我们以为是宝 actually all these are suffering we are clinging to. And the bucket as compassion, right, as the wisdom. We use down water to cleanse our afflictions. The story of the temple, and then we strive to be. This great perfect mirror, clarity and contemplative, not afflicted, seeing, not attached. Actually, like mirror and whatever 你照它 see already once passed, it wouldn't leave any trace in it. That's what we are hoping to aspire. The wealth and advantage like floating clouds. Just a vapor, like brother Chin 讲了, illusory. Why are we still chasing after this illusion? But somehow human beings are without the true understanding, and that's why the mind will chase after the poisons that will hurt us. And I like this part, the straw sandal. See, often we heard this boy. The guy loved the girl so much, or the girl so much, and so addicted to the guy. Wow, go all the way. That one scared it up. Throw it at the straw sandal. So you see, humans sometimes we look at it, but we are very grateful because we have Master's teaching. With Master's teaching, understanding the truth, so we can see past all these three. Just very simple. Have simple mind, undefiled, then we know all the truth. Just remember that part. Simple and undefiled, then we move.
And clean every day. Clean.
Scrub. Yeah, by this like the accomplished monastic, we don't be like the other part talented. Not to say we shouldn't be talented, but all the way, pain do all this, but yet underneath, it is not, the affliction is still very deeply, deeply tainted. How with that, back to you, Brother Robert, brothers and sisters, let each of us be like this accomplished monastic. Clean and scrub our state of mind daily, diligently. Same time with this compassion, like Sister 讲真的是 this is very important. Compassion is the root of giving and transforming others. Must every day make sure our bucket of compassion is overflowing. 好，感恩。
感恩 so much. 感恩 so much. 感恩 to all the wonderful sharings and insight from all the brothers and sisters. For our non-commissioned brothers and sisters, Sister Wai Fong, Brother Ang, I think, at the moment now we have two, and maybe Sister Elizabeth. Actually, when you go up to the stage to receive the certification badge from Master, actually she will also give you one bucket and one piece of cloth. I think all the commissioners actually receive it. She will give you one bucket and one imaginary bucket and an imaginary piece of cloth. So you bring back, so you must use it. And clean. But for Sister Stephanie, it's different. I think the maid left the bucket and the cloth for her. So she is physically and imaginary also cleaning every day. I think sometimes we forget that the bucket is with us. The cloth is with us. Yeah, we need to rub and clean. So this bucket and cloth thing, we must use it. We must use it.
We always think the bucket was meant for another person.
The bucket is given to us. Then once we go up to the stage, when Master put the badge, okay, here is the bucket and the cloth. Okay, so we need to use it. Okay, let us continue to learn from each other. Let us continue to scrub and wash. Okay, we'll see each other again tomorrow morning. Okay, Gan En, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Tonight, Brother Joe says, tonight's at 8 点, but Brother...
Yes.
Tomorrow night.
Hey, today is what day?
Thursday.
Today is Friday. Today is not Friday.
Hey, today I have meeting.
Friday.
Today is Friday.
Yes. Today is Friday. Oh my gosh.
Yesterday
Today Friday.
Discussion with Brother Ang.
Oh yeah. Today is Friday. Oh my god. Okay. See you tonight.
Brother Joe.
Okay.
Bye.
Tonight I have meeting.
Not today.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.